Hello, hello. Heather McGregor here from Naturally Present. Well, it's very bright here. I'm going to turn that light down. Thank you for joining me. If anybody is new to the group, as I say, I'm Heather McGregor. I'm the founder of Naturally Present and this group. And I really help people to really embody their power, their presence, power, and precision so that you can start to make those massive shifts that you're looking for in your life, right? That high performance, here we go, I'm creating what I desire. So that's the work that I do. And in our group here this month, our challenge this month is Make It Matter. So this is all about making your truest, deepest, most intimate desires matter and then making them matter, turning them into matter, 3D matter. Okay. So I'm going live Monday to Friday, as you know, which is a little bit unusual. Normally we do this once a week, but I'm coming in 5 times a week just to really make sure you guys are getting the content that you need and the codes that you need and the upgrades that you need to really make it matter. And if you've missed any of the replays, they are all in our guide section in the Animate Your Power guide in our group, so you can find them there. Today we're talking about breaking the bond with shadow. Now we were supposed to be talking about making the bold moves no matter what. That was the intent. But I got some downloads yesterday and some information and some really cool stuff, and I really wanted to share this with you because it landed for me so clearly how imperative it is to actually break the bond with the shadow. So I talk about unhooking and unplugging from collective beliefs, from old patterns and identities and all these things. The next piece of that is to make sure you are actually breaking the bond, doing the things necessary in order to sever the bond with the shadow. And when you've done that and you've done it correctly, that means even when shadow shows up, it has no impact on you. It has no teeth, no power. Nothing happens because you've broken the bond. So let's remember that we all have shadow. It is a part of our life, whether we like it or not. If we don't have shadow, we are manifesting with our word. We're instant. We're in this place where it's all happening instantly. I don't know anyone there. I know moments in my life where I've gotten closer. I know many people who are, getting closer and rocking things. But for the most part, I'm just getting this light out of my eyes. For the most part, I don't know anyone who is living that way yet. So that means there's shadow. That's it. And the option with shadow is to leave it and to live a shadow-based life, which is what we've been doing so far, or to break the bond with it and claim your power back, reclaim your presence, your power, and your potency. It is always easy to delay dealing with our shadows, to be a bit lazy about it, to kind of half-heartedly go at it, but not actually break the bond. It's very easy to do some actions and tell ourselves that we are alchemizing shadow and shifting it, when in fact, it's only being done on a surface level, on the mental level. And I know this because I've done it. I've done it far too long. Shadow makes feeding shadow really easy. And it can be so very, very subtle. So when shadow shows up, so let's say there's something you desire to be different in your life. And I'll share some examples in a minute, but I want to give the concept, the whole idea here. You have a desire for something to be different in your life, and you start to take action towards it. Your shadow gets in the way, and we've talked a lot about this. Shadow doesn't want to die. Shadow wants to retain the power always. That's its goal. So it's going to show up. The problem is we often don't notice that the shadow has popped up. So when I say naturally present, I really mean present. You need to be so present that you can notice the shadow the moment it shows up. Before it triggers you, before it yells out, what did I put in the post? It yells out shotgun and it jumps into the passenger seat, because we all know the passenger is your navigator. So even if you've got your hands on the steering wheel and you're driving the car, it's your navigator that's telling you turn left, turn right, go straight, park here, don't park there. So we don't often catch the shadow and the energy of the shadow and the trajectory of the shadow and the desire of the shadow to stay alive in time before it triggers us, before it has set its compass as our GPS. So in order to create something different, in order to create these results that you hold in your heart, that you dream of, that you hope for, that you really, really want, you're striving and struggling to make it happen, to really be your most amazing, iconic, powerful, unstoppable, amazing self, you have to break the bond with the shadow so that when it shows up, you aren't triggered. And eventually, like any guest, If a guest keeps knocking on your door and you just don't open the door and invite them in, eventually they stop knocking. So that's where we want to get to with shadow. But in the interim, it's still going to pop up. You have broken the bond and reclaimed your power so that you're not triggered. It's just something that's there in the background. So if you're here with me live, let me know. I forgot to mention that. If you are on the replay, hashtag replay. No comments at this point. Okay. So let's remember that, so I'm talking, when I say shadow and power, I'm talking about the archetypes. So we have the 4 channels or the 4 realms, and there is a shadow archetype and a power archetype in each. So the shadows are the, listen to the, feel the energy of these words as I drop them. So prostitute, child, victim, and saboteur. On the opposite side, the empowered light archetypes, we have the lover, the sovereign, the warrior, and the magician, right? You can feel just in those words the different energies that they hold and the essences that they hold, right? So what is essential when it comes to breaking your bond with shadow is that you become very, very familiar with the shadow energy and how it manifests for you, how it expresses for you, how it shows up for you. You want to get familiar with that. You want to get very familiar with all 8 archetypes in general, so you can easily identify which shadow is at play, and then you can flip to the powered archetype, the opposite of that. You can go all the way to the other spectrum with it. But you also want to be very, very aware of the subtle nuances of how it expresses for you, because we all have slightly different expressions of shadow when they show up. We all express the same. We're somewhere, our psyches are somewhere within those 8 archetypes, but we all have our own unique, subtle nuances and different expressions of it. So it's about getting very familiar with that so you can catch it and you can like turn away from that shadow before it actually triggers you. All right, let's see if there's any questions. No questions yet. Okay. Hopefully that it's making sense to all you guys, right? You want to be aware of the archetypal energy that is at play with any decision, any choice, any action, any inaction that you're taking or not taking in your life, right? And the reason is, if you can identify that, hey, this is the shadow, you then have the opportunity to either ignore it or alchemize it until you are in the power. You've reclaimed your power. You've got your presence, you've got your power. You're running the lover, sovereign, the warrior, and the magician, and you're getting stuff done. Not only are you getting stuff done, but you're getting it done with potency and precision so that things are actually changing in your life, not just in your head, right? Okay, so in order to make these big giant leaps in our life and really start to create unimaginable results, or even smaller ones, wherever you're working at right now, you have to break the bond with the shadow, and you have to do it in the moment that the shadow shows up. You cannot go back in time. You can spend a lot of time, wasted time, trying to go back and heal old traumas and why did I do it this, and I could have done it this way, and if I change this now it'll affect that. That's a waste of time. You want to be in your current. If you missed yesterday's session, you want to go and catch that, because I talked a lot about the current, your current, and making sure you're plugged into your current. Your current may be running shadow, your current may be running power, your current may be running somewhere in between. So this is not about anyone else's current, this is about your current, what is current for you right now. And it's not about digging into the past, it's not about healing childhood traumas or any of that stuff. It is about making a choice in this moment to turn towards the power and turn away from the shadow. So learn the archetypes, learn how they express for you. What are the subtle nuances of how the child shows up for you, how the prostitute speaks for you, how the victim engages with you, and how your saboteur, your mental realm, gets involved in your creations and in your actions and the things that you're doing and not doing in your day. Learn the archetypes, learn how they express in you. Super important. And then practice and hone your ability to be present, to be present, to be present, so that you can see which current you're plugged into. When you're not present, it's very easy to think you're animating your lover, sovereign, warrior, or magician, when in fact, you're in the shadow side. It's very easy to miss the subtle nuances of the shadow if you're not being present. So learn the archetypes and how they express for you. Practice and hone your ability to be present. And then When you notice shadow has shown up, shadow is starting to open the door and hop into the passenger seat, now you have the choice to alchemize it. So when a thought starts to arise in you, that is of the prostitute, the child, or the victim, or the saboteur, when any of those thoughts rise up in you, you choose. And you have two choices. And I've talked about this a lot. You either notice it and simply turn away. So if this is the shadow, I often think of, remember those cartoons where they would have an angel on one shoulder and a devil on the other one, right? It's kind of like that. You've got the shadow voice over here, you've got the power archetype over here, and you're in the middle. So it can be as simple as noticing there's the devil and choosing towards the angel, right? Notice the shadow, turn towards the power archetype, and take the action. But it's important to know that you can only do that shift if you aren't triggered. If your shadow has triggered you, you have to call in a tool for alchemy in order to break the bond with the shadow. And you want to do that before it opens the door and sits down in the passenger seat and becomes your GPS, ideally. So being present allows you to observe the thoughts, to notice what's going on, to notice the energy. You want to tune into the energy, the current that is running through your body. You'll feel when things are sticky, when they're not, there's just a density to shadow that's not there in the power side. Being present also allows you to deepen your relationship with your intuition, and this is key. You are so in tune with your intuition that you hear the command, you feel it, you know what the next step is to do, and you go and you take that action. You feel even the subtle nudges, the little hints. Intuition isn't always not like a tuba that says, hey, today I want you to do 10 outreaches. Sometimes you can get those loud ones, but sometimes it's very, very subtle and very, very quiet. And you want to cultivate that relationship. You got to be present in order to catch those nudges when they are current. When intuition drops something into you, something that is maybe new, maybe uncomfortable, it stretches you, it's something you haven't done before, or it's something you've resisted doing, you don't want to do it, you delay it. When intuition drops those things in, things that your shadow doesn't like, the shadow archetypes are going to start speaking up. They're going to start showing up in subtle ways. They're going to start showing up maybe in loud ways. It's hard to know how they're going to show up, but they are going to show up. And this requires you to be aware and present and to know your archetypal energies. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Let me know if there's any questions. And I'm going to drop in an example now. This is a personal one. I've spoken about this before. You all know I struggle with this. Exercise, right? If you have a desire, a true desire to have a healthier, active body, a toned body, whatever it is, and that desire actually matters to you, you've decided to make it matter, your lover supports the desire, you're worthy, it knows the value of it, all that stuff, and it hands that desire to the sovereign decrees and says, okay, this is it, this is where we're focusing, let's make it happen. That decree activates the warrior. The warrior starts to gather the resources, collects the running shoes and the outfits to work out in. And the warrior starts to tune into the intuition, which will give you commands to do whatever it takes. And the warrior is willing to do whatever it takes, no questions. The warrior does what the intuition says in order to uphold the sovereign decree. And then your magician hops in with that state of knowingness and how creation works and that state of wonder, and doesn't need any evidence to know that these exercises are going to be good for your decree. We all know how exercise works and what it does for our body. So that's how the power archetypes are going to work. Your intuitive nudges come in and it says, okay, it's time to work out. And it's, some of us need to schedule in. I work out at 5 a.m. every day or 5 p.m. or whatever it is for you. And there's also a state of being where when your desire is so clear, you don't need to schedule it in because your intuition says, okay, now it's time to go for your run. Now it's time to get on your mat. Now it's time to do a 10-minute workout. That's a different state of being. It's a beautiful state of being. It requires a lot of trust and it requires a lot of broken bonds with your shadows because otherwise your shadow will speak up very, very loudly. And so even though that nudge comes in and says, you know what, go do a 10-minute quick, hard workout on your mat. Your shadow's going to be like, I don't want to get sweaty. I just ate. I got a call in half an hour. Whatever. Your shadow's going to start speaking up. When the intuitive nudge to work out happens, you suddenly, and you follow it, all of your power archetypes are working, you're suddenly working out, and then suddenly your workout's done. There's no thought required, there's no delay, there's no putting it off for later. It just happens. When you don't listen to shadow, when you have broken the bond with shadow, there's no questions, no thoughts, it's easy, and suddenly it's done. It's almost like magic. It happened. Because your lover, your sovereign, your warrior, and your magician were activated. But let's go back to the very beginning of that. Your desire is to have a fit, healthy body. So your desire is to exercise, right? And you know this. Your true desire is to have the healthy body, and that is what matters to you. You've decided it matters. But your current self, now remember in the beginning I said that most of us are living a life based on shadow. So your current self doesn't enjoy exercise, finds it challenging, doesn't like to get sweaty, whatever your shadow side has to say. And those are my examples. So this is very real to me. So the desire's there, and the current self doesn't like it. The shadow self, the shadow life doesn't enjoy it. So now it's very simple for the prostitute to jump in and say, you don't have the energy today. I think, we should put our value on rest, and you should just settle for today and do something tomorrow. You're fine. Then your child loves to dream about the healthier body, but doesn't want to take responsibility, doesn't want to, really get into it. She'd prefer to just dream about it. She's happy to delay the exercise till tomorrow. Very happy. Your victim, addicted to the drama. I want a healthier body. I can't seem to exercise. I want a healthier body. I can't seem to exercise. Just can't get out of that addiction to the drama. And the saboteur, well, we all know how saboteur works. So can you see in this example where it's very clear there is a desire for the healthier body? You make that desire matter. Your intuition is going to lead your warrior to actions that are going to support that desire to become a reality. At the same split second, your shadows are going to be like, my shadow self doesn't like it. And so both voices can be activated almost simultaneously. And your job is to be so present that you can notice, and so intimately familiar with how the shadow archetypes work for you, so that you can either immediately notice that shadow voice and keep going anyway, or if you're triggered and suddenly you're like, yeah, I'm not going to exercise, and you're in that state, then you have the ability to alchemize it. Now, the alchemy isn't just about willpower and pushing your way through it. It's about getting to the core lie. Really identifying the exact shadow archetype that is keeping you stuck. So I gave you examples of all four and how they would interact with my current self, the shadow self who doesn't like to exercise. But if I really break it down and get all the way down to the core lie that the shadow's holding in place, then I have the opportunity to alchemize it. And that core lie, you feel it in your body when you actually nail the tone of it, when you get to the truth. So it's not, as I've said this so often, it is not a mental activity, it's in the body. Your body will tell you when you've hit that core lie. Then I can know for sure which power archetype I need to get in conversation with, to get in gear with, so that I'm out there doing the exercise. And the more I do that, the more the bond breaks. And it breaks so much that eventually, when the shadow comes up, it's easy to turn away. Then I don't have to do the alchemy. And then it gets to the point where the shadow's like, she's not paying attention. It's gone. That is the goal, right? So to really alchemize shadow and to really break the bond with shadow, it is a moment by moment by moment experience. And it all comes down to being present. You imagine that your shadow has you triggered. You get the nudge to do the thing. So I get the nudge to work out. Now my thoughts jump in and say all the reasons why I'm too busy. I've got this to do. I'm going to do it later. And then suddenly I notice that I'm sitting back down again, right? I didn't do the thing. Now I'm triggered by the shadow. Now is the exact moment to get very specific about why I'm listening to the shadow, what this shadow has to say, what this shadow wants, what is the lie it's holding in place for me. That way, I can do the true alchemy to shift it so that it loses its power. I claim the power back from the shadow. I own the power. I take the responsibility for the power. And then it's very easy to just get up and do the exercise, and it's done. So, that's just an example because it's a really hard-hitting one for me. But you can see how this would work with food, addiction, business, really doing the actions in your business that are going to bring you money. We are so good at delaying them, so good at avoiding them, so good at thinking it'll be easier in some future moment. That is all shadow. If your desire is pure and true, I desire to make money. Remember, we drop all the other conditions and contents. We want to be unconditional around it. I desire money. I desire to have some money. I desire to make money. If that is a true desire for you and you've decided to make it matter, your intuition is naturally going to lead your warrior into some actions that feel uncomfortable. Your shadow is going to pop up. You alchemize it in the moment. And the more you do that, the more that bond breaks, the freer you become, the more power you have running through your system. The more power you have running through your system, the more magnetic you are, the easier things happen, the more stuff comes to you without you having your hands on the steering wheel. Can you see how all of these lives tie together? So the alchemy comes from letting the voice of the shadow have its say. Let it have its say. You don't want to push it down and squash it. You want to let it out. If you're triggered, if your shadow is in the driver's seat, navigate, or in the passenger seat, navigating how you move through your day, you've got to alchemize it. You let the shadow speak until you nail that core lie that it is holding in place for you. And then you find the opposite, the truth that negates that lie. So you go into the power archetype, you find that core truth that negates that lie, and you activate that in your body, not in your mind, not as a mental activity, but in your body, right? So for me, I can relate this to the exercising to child, the child archetype. I prefer to play right now. I prefer to dream about the healthy body. I prefer to want it, but I don't want to take responsibility for having the healthy, active body. I don't want to exercise. I don't like exercising. It's a waste of my time. I don't want it to be easier. It's not fair. It seems so much easier for other people to exercise. Whatever, right? The voice of the child. What's the opposite of the child? Is the sovereign. The sovereign says, I will have an active and healthy body. It's done. And the sovereign leads her people. The sovereign leads herself. You choose the archetype. You get so familiar with them so that you can choose. You choose the archetype to animate. Every time you do this, you are breaking the bond with your shadow. Your shadows have been with you for a really long time. And as you start to move into territory where they're threatened, they're going to get louder. That's a good thing. We want to invite the shadow. Every time you let them navigate, you're feeding them power. They get stronger and stronger and stronger. Every time you claim the power back from them, they get weaker and weaker and weaker. And it is a process. Some shadows are easy. You can be done with them in a heartbeat. Some shadows are going to take practice. Okay? Take your power back. So anytime you notice a doubt, a fear, an uncertainty, any voice that is not in support of your sovereign decree in the thing that you desire, the desire you want to make matter, notice the voice, look for the core lie, flip it to the truth, and be done with it. Stop feeding the shadow. Break the bonds with the shadow so that they no longer have power. And then if they do come knocking on the door, it's nothing. You're not triggered. You're not activated by it. You're not opening that passenger door and saying, come on in and lead me. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. I went quite long today because I'm very, very passionate about this. It landed for me in such a different way last night. And just the pure requirement to do this moment by moment by moment. It's not like we can pull on a past experience or even project a future one and say, well, I know my child's going to be activated by this, or my victim is activated. We can't pull it from the past or the present. It has to be what is current for you. Be plugged into your current. Be present. Alchemize the shadow, any shadow that gets in the way. And then things just happen. They just happen. Your magician's super happy when you got this going on. Tomorrow we will be talking about turning a blind eye. So continuing on with this theme. We're back to 9 a.m. tomorrow, so 1 hour earlier than we were today. Hope to see you there live. Again, if you are on the replay, #replay, put your comments and questions in. I'm happy to answer them throughout the day. And get your applications in for Animate Your Soul Blueprint. There's so much goodness coming through for this. It is going to be such a powerful mastermind. It's 4 months of your life, and it will be life-changing. So get your applications in. All right, have a beautiful day, everyone, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you here tomorrow. Bye for now. Oh, Misha, we give our power to shadow by choice. Yes, yes. Thank you so much. You're so welcome. Thanks for joining, and have an awesome day.